How's it going, everybody? Marvel Across 316 back with another comic book flashback. Today we are looking at Ultimate Spider-Man issue number 30. Today's title is Emergency, and that's exactly what's been going on here. I mean, Spider-Man, as we saw from last issue, was shot in the arm. I mean, he's shot right in the shoulder. And so now, basically, we have to worry, will Spider-Man pass out because of the blood loss? Also, we just have a great issue, nothing less. I mean, things are really starting to heat up here as it seems that the life of Peter Parker continues to just get more crazy by every issue. So, previously in Ultimate Spider Man, a mystery man posing as Spider Man is committing a series of daring robberies throughout the city. Frustrated by the bad rap he is getting, Peter decides to get in the middle of a standoff between the police and this fake Spider-Man. But Spider-Man is viciously attacked by the police the second he shows up to the crime scene. Spider-Man is shot and falls to the ground at the feet of the rabid news media and police, and that's where we left off last issue. But before we get started, gotta give credit where credit is due. This issue is brought to you by Brian Michael Bendis, who wrote this issue. We have Mark Bagley on the pencils, Art Thibert on the inking. We have Chris Eliopoulos, lettering page, CB Cebulski, associate editor, Brian Smith, associate editor, Ralph Macchio, editor, Joe Quesada, editor-in-chief, and Bill Jamos, president and inspiration. Now let's continue this story. We have the police. They are surrounding the body of a very limp Spider-Man. We see that he was shot right here in the shoulder blade right here. He's losing a lot of blood. They're telling Spider-Man to stay down. Don't you move a muscle or I'll blow your head off. So then we see that they're going to basically read Spider-Man his Miranda rights here. They say you have the right to remain silent. Anything you do will be held up in court here, basically, and all this, the Miranda rights. You must have learned that in school. I learned it too. And so you could just imagine the pain that Spider-Man is going through. He's been shot in the shoulder, and then they're trying to put these handcuffs on him, and they are successful in doing that. And he's like, no, listen, ow. And he's like, ow, ow, ow. And then he's like, grab the mask. And so they're trying to take off the mask of Spider-Man. All of a sudden, Spider-Man's like, don't get off me. And he kicks this guy right in the stomach. He hops up on the police car. I mean, he is already injured, but now he's going to basically scale this building. And they're firing bullets at him. So he's scaling the building while being shot at, gets to the rooftop, collapses on the rooftop. He's like, oh, my shoulder, my head is spinning. I can't even see straight. And he said, my mask, I got to fix my mask. Can't see my arm. And he's like, I gotta get Mary Jane on the phone. I gotta do something. I need help. And so he breaks the handcuffs of what that was on him. And so he was successful in doing that. Now he collapses on the rooftop. All of a sudden, we see a bright light shines on Spider-Man. It is the NYPD helicopter. They're telling Spider-Man to freeze, lie on the ground with your hands over your head, or we will shoot you. And we see Spider-Man once again leaps up and walks out, and he's going to be running from rooftop to rooftop while this helicopter is shooting at him. This is crazy stuff here. And all of a sudden, Spider-Man gets out of the way here, and they've lost sight of Spider-Man, and now the police are going to be searching throughout New York City to get Spider-Man because they think that Spider-Man is responsible for robbing that bank. Because we remember that there is a fake Spider-Man out there, and he's posing as the real Spider-Man, and now Spider-Man has a bad rap. So Spider-Man, he takes off his mask, he slumps to the ground, and I mean, he's losing a lot of blood. He's like in a hidden alley somewhere. We see Mary Jane, she's at her house, and she's writing in her diary about how she's been having these horrible nightmares because of the bridge incident when the Green Goblin threw her off that Queensboro Bridge, as you recall. And all of a sudden, she gets a phone call, and it's from Aunt May. Remember, Peter Parker snuck out of the house last issue. He said that he was going to go see Mary Jane, and so she calls Mary Jane. She says, "Yeah, Peter's in the bathroom. He'll be right out." And she said, "Yeah, I'll let him know that he needs to get home." And she's like, "What am I going to do?" All of a sudden, she gets a ring, and it just so happens to be Peter. And she's like, "Yes, hey, Peter, where are you? Your aunt is looking for you. Where are you at?" And all of a sudden, he says, "Mary, help me." So now she has to get a taxi and find the location to where Peter is at. And she finds him in this hidden alley, slumped in a bunch of garbage. And she is just, struck with shock here as she's like, "Oh my goodness, Peter, what happened to you?" He said, "I'm not doing so well." And so then she's like, "I brought the first aid kit like you said. I can't believe what's going on. We need to call Aunt May." And he said, "No, you cannot call Aunt May. We need to get you to a hospital." He said, "How can we do this? You can't tell Aunt May because of Uncle Ben. Uncle Ben was shot, and if Aunt May finds out that I've been shot, it'll kill her." And so we see here, he's like, "I don't know what to do." And so we see that Mary Jane comes up with a plan to change Spider-Man out of his costume, puts on a fresh pair of clothes that she had grabbed on the way, and we see that Peter Parker is going to walk right into the hospital, and he falls right into the arms of this doctor here. And like, "He's been shot. We need to get him to the emergency room ASAP." And so he said, "Do you know him?" And Mary Jane says no, she's trying to not blow Peter's cover here. And so she's going to wait in the waiting room here while Peter is being worked on. We see the police shows up, and he said, "Who is this kid and how did he get here?" And so we have no idea. He just came in. He has no identification on him at all. We don't know how old he is. He may be 15, 17 years old. We're not certain. He said, "Can we look at him real quick?" And he's trying to rest. When they walk into the room, they notice Peter is not there. He's not in his room. He went up into the roof here. He knows that the police are looking for Spider-Man, and they could connect him to being Spider-Man. And so while Mary Jane is waiting for Peter Parker, this woman here looks into Mary Jane's purse, and it just so happens she sees some of Spider-Man's costume. Mary Jane notices, and she says, "All right, I got to get out of here." The police walk in and say, "Hey, have you seen a kid somewhere? We need to order a lockdown here in the hospital. We believe that there's a security threat." And so all of a sudden, Mary Jane notices that she needs to get out of here real quick. And so she runs out of the hospital. The police try to stop her. And when they go outside, she's nowhere to be seen. Well, it comes to find out here that she's on the rooftop with Peter Parker. Peter's like, "I got to get home, but I don't know what to do. I can't web swing because of my shoulder. And you're out of money. You don't have any money to get us a cab." And he says, "Do you have an ATM card?" And she says, "Yeah, it's in my savings." He said, "Look, just use it. I'll pay you back." And so then she hugs Peter. He's, "Ow!" And she said, "Oh, thank God you're all right." So at Aunt May's house, she's still wondering where Peter Parker is at. She's resting on the couch and listening to something on the TV. She wakes up and she notices that she hasn't seen Peter yet. She goes to Peter's room and she notices that Peter Parker is sound asleep in his room, or so we think. So Aunt May must think that nothing's going on. Peter opens his eyes, turns on the television, and we just so happen to see a Sergeant Bullet. And Sergeant Bullet basically says that the police are done with vigilantes, and that the city is now going to be basically looking for any superheroes who pose a threat to New York. We're taking them down. And so, Spider-Man, you big weasel, come on out of hiding because we're coming after you. And so that's what we have to worry about next issue. Will Spider-Man be able to clear his name in the news media and all this? And who the heck is posing as Spider-Man? We think it might be the chameleon, but we're not too sure yet. And so go ahead now, give this video a like, comment down below what you liked about this issue, subscribe if you have not, and I will see y'all in the next one.